Hello, it's Fun Hotel Fact time again. Did you know, the first establishment that was called a hotel in the US was built in 1793. It was the Union Public Hotel in Washington, D.C.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast with me, your host, Glenn Hausman. I am back on the train this week, and I'm excited to have every one of you aboard to help come along for the ride here. We have been having so much fun all of this summer, and I'm starting to feel like I'm getting my energy back from a great winter and spring, traveling on all over the world, and talking to so many great groups out there, doing so many great interviews, and having the opportunity to do these great keynote speeches I've been doing all over the country, all over the world, and some of the live podcast recordings that we've been doing for this show, and for checking in with Anthony and Glenn, which of course I do with Hotel Impossible's Anthony Melchiori. If you want to check out that show and any of the others, like the Hotel Design Podcast, the Business of Hotels Podcast, and the Hotel Tech Podcast, be sure to check novacancynews.com, and that's your home base for it. But Google any of those shows, subscribe to them on iTunes, subscribe to them on Google Play. You know what to do. You guys found this show. You can find the others as well. Now, before we get going, and what I'm sure is going to be a really insightful, educational conversation for us today. I want you all out there to reshape your expectations of what an FF&E distribution partner for hospitality can and should be. That's why I want you to make Almo Hospitality your go-to partner to simplify FF&E deployments for guest room and beyond with industry-leading brands, the latest hospitality trends, and distinctive new-to-market brands, coupled with our specialized business development and hospitality-dedicated sales team. Almo Hospitality's division of Almo Corporation, the nation's largest independent distributor of professional AV, consumer electronics, major appliances, outdoor furniture, and housewares. And, of course, you can find them at hospitality.almoproav.com. That's hospitality.almoproav.com. And if you haven't subscribed yet to our weekly newsletter, what are you thinking, guys? Text the word hotel to 66866. That's hotel to 66866. All right, I think you guys have had enough of all of that kind of stuff, so let's get into it right now. I'm going to be speaking today with Jason Bennett. He's the Chief Marketing Officer with Lifeafar, which is a real estate investment and hospitality firm offering investment opportunities in, of all things, real estate properties and coffee products in Colombia and Puerto Rico. So we're going to get to the bottom of how you do both of these things at the same time by bringing in Jason right now. Jason, it is great to speak with you, man, coming all the way from South America. How goes it?
It's going as they say in Medellin, Colombia. It's going tranquilo, which means relaxed, perfect, great weather, wonderful energy in the air. Sun is out again, as it is 365 days a year. So I'd say it's going pretty well.
All right. So did you hate me or something? Why are you telling me all of these things when I'm stuck up here in New York? Jason, I really...
No, after moving here from San Francisco about a year ago, and I'd visited a couple times as a tourist, I do feel it's part of my duty for the city to be sharing the story as much as possible, to helping change the perception on what people think from Colombia and what people think of Medellin.
Well, what's amazing to me, Jason, is just how far Colombia has come in the last decade, so much so that they really have a vibrant hospitality community down there. Now, I've never been to that Colombia, but I don't want you to get too jealous too much, because I did go to Columbia, Maryland plenty, where I did work at the Gap, and I know that you worked at the Gap once, but I had a feeling you probably weren't folding clothes in the back room.
No, I actually didn't work on the Gap business itself. I was on the Banana Republic marketing team for about 11 years, and I worked a little bit on our loyalty program, helped run some of our seasonal strategy, helped with our licensing categories as well, and we started to expand into fragrance and eyewear, both in domestic wholesale as well as international. You'd find Banana Republic fragrances, for instance, in the airport in Russia for a time. And then towards the end of my career, I was heading up all of marketing for our outlet division. And it was great to be part of that leadership team and really, be the person driving business change as the retail landscape was changing right in front of us. It was quite fascinating.
Yeah, and I felt like the retail landscape was changing in front of me in the back room folding those clothes, because I got to see, I got to learn the names of all the countries where the clothes are produced. So I found out all over the world, and it was a lot of fun. A little inside baseball here, but it seemed like all of the shirts, for example, at least certain lines of them would come in their own individually plastic wrap, and they would all say like, made in Vietnam, or made in Colombia, or whatever it might be, which I always thought was pretty cool. But Jason, we're not here to talk about my early jobs and potential fashion missteps. No, we want to talk all about what you folks are doing. Now, this is really an interesting idea to me, and I'm curious as to getting like right into it. Tell me a little bit about Lifeafar and what this company is all about, and how you're helping change the lives of people.
Yeah, so Lifeafar plays a really unique space in the hospitality and investment industries. I would say it's one of the only ones, if not the only one, that blends the two. I discovered the company after I'd made the decision to move to Medellin.
Yep. And
I needed some help to buy property, because you, under no certain terms, should be a foreigner buying property in any foreign country, let alone Colombia.
Hey, I was uncomfortable buying it outside the New York City limits. I can imagine what it's like in another country.
Exactly. You could go down a slippery slope with that. So Lifeafar, the unit that I found, was offered by Lifeafar. We have a residential real estate team here. They helped me see the place. They helped me through the entire process of buying the home, which could probably be a topic of its own podcast down the road.
Yeah, for sure.
And during that process, I got to know the executive team, got to tell them a bit about my story of, coming from corporate America, coming from San Francisco, traveling quite a bit and discovering some really cool cities, but Medellin was my absolute favorite one. And the reason for the property purchase, in addition to just wanting a new lifestyle, was it is your quickest and easiest way to get a residency visa. The dollar amounts to buy homes, or the dollar for any investment, whether it's a home, whether it's job creation, you name it. You don't have to spend that much to get 3 or 5 year visas. So The home to me was my way of not just not paying rent, but also a way to permanently be in the company.
Right.
During the course of buying, as I was getting to know the executive team, I also got to know that at the time head of marketing, and him and I had connected over LinkedIn during this process. We actually went to the same university, University of Oregon, so we had quite a bit in common. He broke the news one day that he was actually going to be returning to Portland, and I should take his job. Wow. And I was like, wow, that's quite an incredible turn of events. And what had really struck me about Lifeafar as a concept, it was not obviously just them helping me buy and sell my home, because there are a number of companies that can do that. During my travels, after I'd left Gap Inc., after I'd rented out my place in San Francisco, I would go to these amazing cities, and I wasn't quite ready to settle.
Right.
I wasn't quite ready to put a significant amount of capital in those cities. But if there had been an option for me to own a little piece of it through crowdfunded real estate, through shares in an apartment complex, what have you, I would have loved to have done that. I would have done it in Lisbon, Portugal. I would have done it in Budapest. I would have done it in Medellin. Lifeafar, the residential real estate was just a part of their business. But the main part of their business was what we call packaged real estate projects, PREPs. We would buy full buildings, we would renovate them, and then we would turn them into short-term and long-term rentals.
Interesting.
And because we had owned the building from start to finish, we can set the rules, because Colombia does have some fairly strict short-term rental rules. And in turn, the investors on those projects that start at $25,000, they then share in the income off of that. And eventually, when the building goes up for sale, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever the exit strategy looks like, they get a share of the profits equal to their investment.
Right.
So I thought that was fascinating, because it allowed a globally minded investor who either didn't have the resources or the knowledge to do it themselves to participate in the growth story of a country and the city they love. And on top of that, on the hospitality side of things, I think Airbnb has done phenomenal things in how they change what living abroad feels like. You can actually be a temporary citizen in another country.
And that's
it's
really
incredible, right?
And that's really going along with some of the trends that we're seeing out there in the wider hospitality universe right now. And I'm talking about those digital nomads, right? People that are bound to the internet, but not to a geographic location in order to find a successful career.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, I read an interesting article once. If at some point there's going to be a global call to relook at visas, because the nature of a single place with guaranteed income coming from a physical location is almost out of date now.
Right.
Where if you can demonstrate to a country that you actually have enough earned income through your digital work, no matter where you are, and you're not going to eventually be a burden on the social services, countries might rethink, you know, whether 90 days is what they want. Maybe they want you there for a year because they know that you're going to be contributing to the economy.
Right.
Anyways, another podcast topic.
You're very good at giving us a lot of topics over here.
I know. We could be back. So, you know, as much as great as Airbnb is, I've also had a lot of disappointing experiences where the reality didn't match the pictures.
Right.
Where you'd show up in a foreign country and you don't know the language, and you have to trek to a convenience store to get a key out of a lockbox that you download on your phone through an app where you don't have internet connection and you're relying on the 7-Eleven, possibly in the middle of Oslo, Norway.
I'm freaking out just hearing this, let alone experiencing that.
Right? Yeah. So from a traveler standpoint, there's a little bit of finger crossing on this.
Yeah.
And what Lifeafar has been able to offer through our completed buildings is what I call travel without compromise. You get that higher end, service level touch, premium furnishings, like a hotel, like a 4-star hotel, but you get to live like a local, like you would through home sharing. You've got a kitchen unit. You're in the best neighborhoods and at a price that you're used to paying at a home sharing option. Mm-hmm. So no longer do you have to trade off. And I found myself, as this job opportunity was presenting itself, I'm like, well, geez, if I knew about Lifeafar and they existed in Portugal, which is where I went first for Lisbon, I would have invested in a heartbeat. And if Lifeafar had existed in Norway, for instance, I would have used them.
Right.
So if I'm loving this brand, if I'm feeling opportunity in how to tell this story, you should go lead their marketing. And that's what got us to today.
Yeah. So I've already learned a lot from this podcast. Now, number one, I've been saying the name wrong all the time. I thought it was Medellin, not Medellin. So thank you.
It is Medellin.
Thank you for educating me on that. I think that's the one thing I'm going to take away from this. Just joking.
That's a thing. Great.
I love the whole idea of melding the idea of living like a local and being part of the community, but also being relieved of all of those stressors that come with sometimes taking a chance to stay outside the traditional hotel kind of environment. So
yes.
I'm curious as to how this all plays into what's going on with the state of Colombia tourism. But before you tell me about that, I mean, what made you want to move to Colombia in the first place? Because I thought you moved there for this job, but at the beginning of the story, you're telling me you moved there and then got this job.
Well, you know those places that really strike you.
Right.
When you know inside it feels like home, and sometimes you don't realize that until you leave a place. And every time that I left Medellin, I just wanted to go back.
Right.
And unfortunately, I can't. There's no right words for how it feels to be here. Everyone has to come feel that and experience it for themselves.
Right.
The level of hospitality, the level of genuine warmth from the culture, the inquisitiveness, the eagerness from the citizens to have the world turn their eyes on Colombia that has for so long been seen in a negative light.
Right.
It sparks innovation. It sparks hope. It sparks a future forward-looking way at things. And there's a proudness in the culture where they look at the troubles that have been in the past, and they know that even though the work will probably never be finished, they're writing a new chapter for themselves going forward. And they have a lot to be proud about. It's, I think, the number 2 biodiverse country in the world. The number one for birds, like Cali, for instance, is a huge bird watching kind of destination for it. Coffee, there's no better coffee in the world. Cacao is incredible. About 70% of the flowers sold in the United States come from Colombia.
Wow.
There is just so much natural beauty and wonder here that has been ignored through the perception of what people think. And that perception is proving to be so much harder to overcome than I think anyone would have thought. So, the mass media does it. I thought Narcos was a great show. But I watched it from an entertainment value, not from whether it was accurately portraying a country or not. Having lived here now for a while, I thought one of the best things they did was show how hard it was for Mr. Escobar to leave Medellin. Like it has that much of a draw on you that you never want to leave it. But if you're sitting there in America, a culture that has traditionally not had an over penetration of passport usage, when you run through the list of what the perception of safety is that's out there, the stories that you read 20, 25 years ago and that are reinforced by pop culture today does not put Colombia at the top of the list. And so it remains somewhat undiscovered. And that was part of what drew it to me. I don't find myself trapped behind tour groups. I still get treated not as as an exotic entity, because there's a lot of foreigners here, but there's still that, as I was mentioning earlier, genuine desire to make a connection because I am here. And the longer that time went on and the more that I went back to San Francisco, it does stand as quite the contrast to where some of the urban cities of today are moving.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of money to live in San Francisco now. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of time to get from point A to point B. And the workforce base, as far as the diversity in people and education and profession, is getting less and less and less because you have to follow a certain mandate to even survive there now.
Right. And let me just point out to the folks listening right now that I'm looking at statistics of crime rates in Colombia versus the United States. And in terms of violent crime, the United States is 15 times more dangerous than Colombia. In international homicide rate for people, they're a little bit more, but not much. But also another interesting statistic here is that in terms of opiate use, we have 6 times more of a problem than Colombia has a problem. So
I wish there was a map that was circulating just a couple weeks ago of the percentage of a country's population that is on antidepressants. Yeah. And I think I encourage all the listeners to look this up later. It'd probably be a simple Google search, but the percent of westernized countries led by the United States and then select in Europe as well, 6-7% are on antidepressants. And when you look down in South America, it hovers around 1 to 2%, with Colombia being on the even smaller end of that. And you really can feel it because what I see poverty here. Again, let's make sure everyone knows it's not perfect. There are neighborhoods you don't go. There's poverty in places. There is some infrastructure that's lacking. Right. But I don't see mental illness. I don't see people without health care.
That's interesting.
I don't see a middle class getting squeezed out. And I see people that don't work to live, or excuse me, don't live to work, but work to live.
Yeah,
well, it is infectious in how the culture operates.
You're really putting out a good case for me to move to Colombia right about now. But assuming I'm not going to, and I want to visit, I understand that you recently launched the Laurellis Suites Apartments Hotel.
Laurellis Suites.
Right. Sorry for mispronouncing that. I have not heard it pronounced. So tell me a little bit about that and maybe some of the other opportunities you're seeing for investments in the country, either in hotel investments or other investments that you have that generate passive income.
Definitely. So Laurellis Suites is our newest property that opened up in here in Medellin. It's in the Laurellis neighborhood, which is kind of the primary neighborhoods that as tourists, as foreigners, you would stay is El Poblado, Envigado, and then Laureles. And Laureles it's kind of it's more central to the city. It's flat. So Medellin is in a valley, and there's quite a bit of hills. It's not like San Francisco hills, but there are hills. But Laureles is great because it's flat. You can walk, you can bike everywhere. There's so many trees. It's like you're walking through a forest sometimes. Right. And we opened up our new property that's got a total of 8 units, walking distance from world-class recreation, dining, bars, nightlife, parks, the metro system, you name it. And we're finding that Laureles, as more tourists are coming, the El Poblado neighborhood can sometimes be cost prohibitive. I would say relative to other travel destinations in Europe, this is still one of the best bargains that you possibly can imagine, especially once you're here. It's hard for me to spend more than $10 on dinner.
Jesus.
For really good food. And but Poblado, as it gets more popular, even more authentic experience now would be over in Laureles because you've got a lot of locals that live there as well too.
Right.
So we opened up that building a couple weeks ago. We had a kickoff event. Our YouTube vlogger, Sam Miller, was there to shoot some content, and we're really excited because we have 2 properties now in Laureles. Evergreen Suites is the other one, and we think it's going to give travelers another chance to kind of see another cool part of Medellin, so they don't stay in the Poblado area the whole time.
Right. Because
part of falling in love with this city is seeing so many different parts of the city.
Wow. Really, really cool. I love the idea of exploring new places, especially knowing that I could be well connected. And I love that it's so inexpensive for us Americans to go down there. But you guys are also expanding into Puerto Rico's opportunity zones with the Plaza Cologne Hotel and Suites. So back here in the United States a little bit.
That is correct. So expansion is on the mind. And part of the reason why I joined was to take the Lifeafar concept global, and by that I mean global both in location but also in investment opportunities. So, from a real estate standpoint, Plaza Cologne was our first non-Colombian real estate play,
right?
And that had started before I joined, but in seeing the path to get there, there is a lot of belief that Puerto Rico, with its recovery from the hurricanes, represents a value and an opportunity much like Colombia. The time to invest anywhere is when no one likes it. And the government... That's
right, everybody. It's time to invest in me. Invest in me, people.
There you go, right? The government, they're finally, I think, about to pass their debt restructure bill that they've been working on for a while. There are a number of tax credits available for anyone making an investment in tourism.
Right.
They have a tourism board for the first time. And I think there's a huge appeal to San Juan, considering that you don't need a passport, American dollars are accepted, and English is primarily spoken. It's in the Caribbean. So we found this beautiful property, Plaza Cologne, that sits in the heart of Old San Juan, which is the Old Town, and the artery to get into Old Town passes right through it. Mm-hmm. It's a couple blocks from where the cruise ships dock. And we had found this property even before, as part of the Tax and Job Cuts Act of 2017, introduced the concept of opportunity zones. And that is where investments can be made in areas deemed... I don't quite remember the criteria, but it was chosen at a local or state level where investment was needed to help with development, usually overlooked in the past. In the case of Puerto Rico, if you were to look at a map of opportunity zones, there are little marks throughout the United States and then almost the entire island of Puerto Rico because of the hurricane devastation. And so what that meant was... Right. If you have capital gains from any capital gain, a real estate sale, an asset like gold or Bitcoin, stock, car, art, it doesn't matter. When you sell that asset, you have 180 days to invest the profit into an opportunity zone investment. And if you do that, the federal government says you can defer your payment of those capital gain profits 5 to 7 years, and you will get a reduction on that amount due of 10 to 15%, depending upon how long you hold it. And then if you hold the asset that you've invested in at least 10 years, any profit on that asset is tax-free. So you'll see a lot of Opportunity Zone funds that have come up since then. And just so happens that our Plaza Cologne deal was Opportunity Zone. I myself, selling my property in San Francisco, invested to take advantage of this. And it was our most successful funding to date.
Awesome.
Previously, our projects had been around $2 to $3 million. We raised $10 million for this in record time. And we are now actively seeking our next Puerto Rico investment. So, yeah, not to put a little plug in, but if you go
ahead, plug away. You have earned it at this point.
If you go to lifeafarinvestments.com, there's a place on the website to sign up for, to get on our email list, which myself and my team writes, and you would be the first to know when we have that next investment available. Lifeafar.com is our hospitality angle of when you're looking to stay. So that's Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And I would say that we're hoping to expand to other locations. It's just the financial model has to work. You have to find an asset that represents a great value. You have to be in a market that shows tourism potential beyond what it has today. And you have to be confident in the returns that you're promising to investors.
Right.
Because it's our credibility on the line at the end of the day. So that's a bit of real estate. In Colombia, we opened up Laurel Suites. We have another project that's going to be coming online in Cali in a few months. I also invested in that because I feel that
to be fair, he's not being fancy with being cool by doing an LL Cool J about going back to Cali. It's actually a town in Colombia.
That is correct. Salsa capital of the world. If you've ever wanted to feel more white and not Colombian, you should try to go salsa dancing in Cali, Colombia. That will humble you immediately. We have a great unit that's opening up there, and Cali's like Medellin 5 years ago. Cali has never had the spotlight on it from winning innovation awards like Medellin did. Cali has not hosted global conferences about building cities like Medellin has.
Right.
Cali's going to grow more and more and more. So we see a lot of opportunity there. We have a couple units in Bogota, and then Cartagena as well, which is kind of the signature beachfront destination where a lot of tourists go today. Typically been safe. And then lastly, on the investment thing, so we also do more than just real estate. We have a coffee investment, which is really exciting because Colombian coffee is so good. And part of the reason why the world does not know about it is because it is highly inefficient. How they produce and how they sell.
For the record, I happen to be highly efficient at drinking it, though.
There you go. See, right? Like most of the world, the demand for coffee is insatiable. It's recession-proof, and it's where people will continue to treat themselves no matter what else is going on in their life. So I could talk all day about what I love about Colombia. One thing I don't is how inefficient it is.
Yep.
Whether it's the 3 hours at the bank, whether it's the bus stuck in traffic, on and on and on. But coffee farms, the vast majority of coffee farms are owned by a single family operator, and they have no purchasing power on the global market, no production efficiency power because they're all operating independently. And there's a lot of profit margin opportunity to be made there. So we have been working with a consortium of farms to have our first coffee investment where we own 3 fincas, as they call them, farms, and investors buy into that project. And as we are adding infrastructure, as we are introducing production efficiencies and scale, as we are bundling beans to sell on the global market, and maximizing growth within the fields with the coffee plants, we are going to be revolutionizing how coffee is produced within these farms. Our first offering sold out in a very quick amount of time. We are now also working on further coffee farm acquisition so we can do another offering because it's kind of that real nice sweet spot right now where the U.S. dollar is very strong against the peso and coffee prices are near 10-year lows.
Wow.
So if you were to be a buyer, you are a buyer now.
All right, that's excellent. Well, maybe you guys will build a classic coffee hotel or something like that at some point.
We have talked about that. We've wanted to bring it all together.
I love it. And until I get down there, I'm gonna go after this conversation and watch myself some classic Juan Valdez Colombian coffee commercials from the 1970s and early 80s. You remember those?
That's a good way to get started.
I know. Yes. So that's absolutely terrific. We're running out of time, so I want to wrap up. Is there anything else that you want to get out there to let our listeners know that you haven't mentioned already? And before you do that, I just want to say, remember, everybody, while the hotel industry here in the United States might be slowing up, other parts of the world are continuing to develop and have lots of investment opportunity out there. And I, for one, would be very interested if I had the money out there. Hey, I'm the journalist. I don't have the money like you investors out there do, but maybe pull me along for giving you this advice with Jason over here. Think about places like Colombia. Think about other places as well, places that those digital nomads are going to want to go, the folks that are your target audience but are living and traveling in different, more exciting ways than ever before. So there's a lot of opportunity to catch these particular types of customers outside the borders of the United States, or at least in Puerto Rico. Any final words from you, sir?
So I'd say one of the best marketing campaigns that I've ever seen was the Colombian tourism company a couple years back. And I believe the slogan at the end was, Colombia, the only thing to fear is you'll never leave. And I would say that is one of the most effective, on point, and accurate statements of this wonderful country that I've ever seen. And I encourage, whether as a traveler, an investor, or just looking to start a new chapter in your life, to strongly consider coming down here for a visit.
Excellent. And that reminds me of a weird comedy video I did in 1982 with one of my buddies, which was focused on Juan Valdez mustache clippings. I don't know where that came from, but I was 11 years old at the time, so I'm going to use that as an excuse out there. Jason, thanks so much for being here. Man, that was really interesting stuff. Now, as soon as we come back from commercial break, you're going to hear another great interview, so stick around and start thinking about how you all can start to invest a little differently. All right, we'll be right back after this message.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, Glenn here. So get this. Recently, NBC's Today Show came out with a list of the 10 best hotels in the world, and my incredible friends over at Red Roof made that list. They've also been voted Best Budget Hotel Brand by USA Today readers 3 of the past 5 years. Wow! And according to Medallia, they've ranked #1 in online reviews for 9 years running. What's more, Red Roof consistently offers one of the highest RevPARs in the economy segment. You know why? Because they're careful to make sure standards reflect guest expectations, are fully tested, and also well priced. In fact, listen to this. They operate over 100 properties themselves, so they understand their franchisees' perspective. I feel like this is where I need to pull out they've got skin in the game line, right? So then there's also the brand extension they've created in the upscale economy market. Red Roof Plus properties feature wood-like flooring, high-end bedding, spa-inspired baths, enhanced landscaping, and more, all based on consumer research. And plus, the first time I saw this room when they debuted a number of years ago, I was blown away. I couldn't believe I was looking at a budget-branded property. So awesome. Such great customer impact. And listen to this. All Red Roof offerings come with Ready Rewards, the richest in-class loyalty program with more than 3 million members. And that just happens to be the least expensive loyalty program on the market for owners like you. Put it all together, there's no surprise Red Roof has a franchisee satisfaction rate of 86%. And those franchisees, they're going to tell you genuine relationships, real results. It isn't just some slogan. It's truly how Red Roof does business. To learn more, visit redrooffranchising.com or call 888-473-8861. That's 888-473-8861. Tell them Glenn sent you.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the No Vacancy Podcast with me, your host, Glenn Hausman. Now, I am stoked because I've been trying to put this interview together for 8 months now with Mr. Jeff Wagoner, the CEO of Outrigger Hospitality Group. Outrigger Hospitality Group. I keep thinking hotels and resorts because everyone calls himself that, but no, you're a hospitality group, Jeff.
Yeah, it's interesting, Glenn, and I'm really glad to be here with you. And sorry it took 8 months to get together.
You know what? The timing is perfect for right now because now you've been in this job for a year and a couple of months, and it's probably better conversation that we'll have than if you were in it only like 4 or 5 months, right?
Absolutely. And, when you talk about Outrigger Hospitality Group, it used to be called Outrigger Enterprises Group.
Right.
And when I got there, I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
And so,
it sounds like software.
Yeah. Or a spaceship somewhere.
Right, yeah. Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah. So, but, we wanted a more forward-facing name of the company, and we felt like Outrigger Hospitality Group was a perfect name for us. We not only manage resorts, we manage a lot of retail as well. We've got over 150 leases in retail.
Wow.
And so we really are a full-service hospitality group. We do development and management and ownership and the whole work. So we're excited.
I had no idea about this retail thing, honestly. So, full admission up front. So is it retail just in your hotels or outside the hotels as well?
It's outside of the hotels as well. So we've got quite a bit of retail space in Waikiki on some of the main avenues, on Kalakaua Avenue.
Place to have it.
Really is.
Yeah.
But we also manage Beach Walk, which we developed it and then sold it, and we still manage it for the current owners. So there's probably 40 or 50 shops there.
Cool.
All types of different retail and restaurants.
Right. All right. So I want to talk about Outrigger, which has been in Hawaii forever, since right after World War II kind of a thing, right? But before we get to that, you're a New York East Coast dude, right? You used to run Trump hotels and stuff like that. What made you make the choice to leave such a high-powered, high-energetic world of excitement, and I guess a lot of stress, and go over to Hawaii, which to me is the polar opposite of the lifestyle that you were leading?
I absolutely loved working in New York City.
Yeah,
one of the greatest places on the planet.
The energy is amazing.
It really was incredible.
Yeah.
But, my wife and I got married in Maui. We got engaged in Kauai. I've been to Oahu and Waikiki probably 15 times in my life.
Right.
And when this opportunity came up, it was just an incredible opportunity to go out there. It's also a company, KSL Capital Partners had just bought the company, and you knew that they had a vision for this company, and it was exciting. So I jumped on it. Haven't regretted a day. It's really a fabulous place to live.
So what was it like going from 100 miles an hour, living in New York with that constant energy here, to Hawaii, which is a totally different way of living, working, and existing? And I got to tell you, it's the first time you're not wearing Hawaiian shirts, and I've seen you since you've taken this job.
Yeah, but I don't have a tie on.
Right,
so
yeah.
I settled down a little bit.
Good.
But, I got there the very first day. Yeah. And, I went to, Starbucks and the Trump Tower every morning and got my Starbucks. And I get there to the coffee shop, and, the guy's looking at me and pouring the coffee nice and slow, and I'm like, I just want my coffee, and I'm in that. I've got that fast pace going on, and so it took a little while to figure out the pace. It is definitely, it's not slow,
right?
It's a big island, and there's the major banks are all on Oahu, and there's a lot of big businesses there. So you don't get island fever on Oahu. It's a great place to live, and there's a lot of incredible people that live on the island as well.
So people that live and work in Hawaii, do they just kind of run on a different clock than people on the East Coast do? And if so, how do you change your expectations to meet their cultural norm?
Yeah, I think so. Because our corporate office is actually in Hawaii, a lot of what we do is based on Hawaii time.
Yeah.
But, we're 6 hours behind New York. So it is a little bit different in the culture there. But, we also have properties in Asia that are, 17 hours ahead of us. So, you've got all kinds of time changes that we deal with. It's not a problem.
Well, what does that mean for you and your day-to-day schedule? Because I remember when I was in Hawaii attending an event about 4 years ago, I was up at 4 a.m. so I could do East Coast stuff. Also, because the time change was so different, I was up at 4 a.m.
Sure.
But I figured with that and then have to do late nights to deal with, Asia and all that, do you ever get a chance to sleep, or do you maybe take a nap from 1 to 2 in the afternoon?
Yeah, well, we do a lot of meetings late at night and early in the morning.
Wow.
But it's not a problem. We've got a fabulous team, honestly, that they don't care. They're there to do business, and they realize that that's the way the business works for us.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of 10 or 11 o'clock meetings with our partners in Asia, and we do early mornings with either Denver or even New York. So it's not a problem for
Awesome.
us.
So what's it like coming in and that first time as CEO for a new company? Because you got to get people to buy into your vision, and then you have to make changes. Change is uncomfortable for people, even if it's for the best.
Sure. I think, for me, I went in first and learned and
Yeah.
listened, and you have to do that. And honestly, I found out that this company had incredible value and a lot of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different levers to be able to pull here to create success in the company. So, the first thing I did was really figure out what's the vision, what's the strategy, and I didn't deploy it on day one. We're honestly deploying it now, and
Right.
we've found some really interesting opportunities to be able to create success in the company.
Because that makes it, that's interesting, because you really do need to get in there and learn. And I mean, for two reasons. One, you want to make sure that you're actually making the right decisions, right? But also, you want to be able to win over the hearts and minds of the staff before you start making those changes, right? So what were some of those changes that came to your mind that you finally started to put into place? And I want to talk a little bit about stuff internally in the organization before we start talking about the developments themselves, right?
Yeah, so it's really pretty simplistic. You think about operating. And for me, the core of our business is being
Right.
good operators.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I started. Our focus is, are we a best-in-class operator?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have the right people in place and the right tools to be able to manage? We've deployed several $1 million of new technology to make sure that not only are we PCI compliant
Right.
and all those types of things, but tools that are very traditional in the business today. Revenue management tools, tools to be able to mine our data and our customer base. And a lot of that was not in place. So this was a company run by a family for 69 years, had done an incredible job of creating this
Absolutely
company.
amazing. And for a company that's so far away, right? I think they really had a brand name that resonated with people all the way over here on the East Coast.
Definitely. And so now it's about how do you capitalize on that, right?
Right.
How do you take it into the future, and what are the kind of the levers, as I said, that you can pull to create some success in the future? So that operating piece, we've got that. We've got a great team in place to be able to do it. We're doing these renovations in some of these properties
Right.
as well. We're doing a $35 million. We just finished a $35 million.
The Waikiki Beachcomber.
Yeah. Amazing property. Our first lifestyle property. Glenn, we created something incredibly cool.
Yeah.
We've got these
All right,
12.
Make me jealous.
Yeah,
We're sitting here in a conference room in New York and not out there.
I know. We've got a group that we pulled together, really 12 people that are all locals that are helping us curate this property.
Right.
So Makana is an incredible musician. He curated the music for the property. Aaron Ibarra is an artist, a local artist, and Aaron painted the floors of flora. On every guest room floor, there's flowers. That the floors of flora start with the low-level mountain flowers are on the low floors, and what you see in the top of the mountains in Hawaii are on the upper floors.
That's really cool.
Zach Noyle, he's an incredible photographer who does photography in the water. And every headboard has a mural behind it that's one of Zach Noyle's pictures that he shot. I mean, those are the types of things that we were able to create here in an authentic way. $35 million, just finished it last month, and you got to come see it. It's an incredible property.
Well, congratulations on that. So $35 million is a huge chunk of cash. So tell me what you mean by a lifestyle hotel from your point of view, because I find that term to be full of vagary, and really kind of all hotels are lifestyle hotels to me these days, but you're seeing it a little bit differently because you're putting in special amenities, features, design, et cetera, et cetera. What's your vision for that place, and how did it come out?
Yeah, when you think about what I just told you, these 12 people, they're
my fault, people.
We call them the Beachcomber Originals,
right.
These 12 individuals. And you think about that, that's authentic, and that's what's creating that lifestyle. These are all young, up-and-coming artists that are part of the Waikiki community that are very different than anything else you see out there, which is really, really interesting. So, we've done yukata robes and things that are very different and unique. We've all new uniforms that are very, very today, not the old Hawaiian shirts, they've got waves in the uniform. So we've done some things that I think are really interesting. But I think the Beachcomber original piece was really what sets us apart from the other properties that are in Waikiki.
So now this particular property, I'm just taking a guess, is probably much older property, right? 70s would probably be my guess.
Yeah, it's an older property, probably 70s, but I'll tell you, we renovated every square inch of this property.
The reason why I ask you that is because consumer desires have changed so much over time, and you could do great things. So what were some of the challenges and the opportunities you had when working with an older piece of infrastructure that on first blush might not immediately connect with the 21st century customer?
Yeah, I think the vision and the renovation was to be able to go and do everything. And so when you think about the bathroom,
right? Well, it's funny because that's exactly what I was thinking about. Because older buildings have smaller bathrooms, and it's much more of a challenge to create that spacious, open feel that you try to have, in particular, I would think, in an island resort.
Yeah, and so in this property, you start from scratch.
Yeah.
You go all the way down to the studs, and you say, we're going to rebuild it the way we want it.
Really?
And with showers and
you
the right
really
glass. You literally did everything.
Wow.
So the restrooms are just fabulous.
That's amazing.
We've got an incredible screen that is carved wood that is very Hawaiian, and things that are very traditional that are in Hawaii. So you've got that good sense of feel, but you've got a real modern feel as well. That property, so that's $35 million. We're starting at the Reef, an $80 million renovation.
Holy cazoli.
We'll start in October. Complete renovation of that property as well. Guest rooms, lobby, new restaurant, new wedding chapel. That'll be spectacular. The entire Waikiki master plan is $200 million that we'll be spending in Waikiki over the next 4 or 5 years.
All right, that is a massive investment that the company is putting into these properties. Why is it a good investment?
The Reef, which is where we're spending the $80 million, there are 2 fee simple resorts in all of Waikiki, and the Reef is one of them, 635 rooms. So to be able to take that property upstream will be a significant investment and a significant opportunity for us. That property is surrounded by the Trump, the Ritz-Carlton, the Halakalani. So all the high-end properties surround the Reef, and so there's a tremendous opportunity for us to take that resort upstream. So we're looking forward to that. The Outrigger Waikiki, when we renovate that property, it's on the 50-yard line. It's where Duke learned how to surf.
Wow.
And so that's going to be a blast. And when you think about what we do by having an authentic property, we will go in on that particular property. It'll be all about Duke and all about surfing. So that's going to be exciting for us to do. At the Reef, it's Polynesia and voyaging.
Right.
So we really do try to say, what happened on this land? What happened at this property over the years, and how do we curate or create that property to be authentic?
Right, because I feel like the original first batch of post-World War II properties and stuff like that was more of a caricature of what we thought Hawaiian culture was like, and I think you could point that to the rise of tiki culture throughout the United States post-World War II, right? Our idealized vision as opposed to the reality of it. So I love that you're going before the white Americans and Europeans showed up to Hawaii to kind of change things and go back to the original seafaring culture that was part of it.
That's a great point. And when you think about the Reef, where it's going to be about voyaging in Polynesia, but it's going to be modernized.
Right.
It's not going to be just, the carved tiki type situation you just talked about.
Yeah, because whenever I hear carved tiki thing, I just keep thinking about those poor Brady boys who should have just left the tiki alone.
There you go. But so it'll be a fun renovation. We already we're working with Hart Howerton, our design firm, on the property right now, and I think when you come out and visit Hawaii, we'll walk you through the Reef. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it really does. It really does sound fantastic. But you're not only limited to Hawaii. You're out there off in the Pacific. What are the unique challenges and opportunities from having such far-flung resorts?
when you hire great people, you can manage those resorts from afar. You don't necessarily have to be there every single day. But, so we work with those teams on a regular basis to be able to manage and support them like any other property. But we've got some amazing hotels and resorts out in the islands and in Asia. We've got our Castaway Island property. It's the only business on the entire island.
Wow.
It's a fantastic resort. I was there recently, and I was talking to a guest, and the guest said to me that he had been there 40 times. And he was there with his daughter, who was 21 years old, and she had been there 21 times.
Wow.
They brought her there every year for her birthday. So those are the types of resorts that we have. In the Maldives, it's the only business on the entire island. So these are spectacular resorts that are just really some of the best resorts you can imagine out in the the
Maldives just seems to be a place where you just have the most incredible types of properties that are just otherworldly in a lot of ways.
They really are, and there's a lot of growth going on in the Maldives right now as well, and there's a lot of opportunities out there, and there's properties for sale. So our property's done incredibly well. It's having the best year in its history, so we're excited about the growth in the Maldives.
So how does it all work in terms of getting people to these locations, and are you dependent on the good nature of other companies to make sure that there's travel back and forth?
To some degree, you are dependent on.
Because I know the Caribbean has these
sure.
issues, you know?
Yeah, and, there's all types of way to get to most of these islands. There's boats that can take you over. You can helicopter in.
Yeah. I guess you could afford to stay at the Maldives. You can take a helicopter.
But, a lot of people do come in on some type of a ferry or a boat. But these are smaller resorts as well. But it's exciting. They run incredibly high occupancy. These are 90% annual occupancy properties that do really well. And, people, they come in, they stay on the island the entire week or 10 days that they're there and just relax and enjoy the festivities there.
Any current expansion plans right now?
Yeah, I'll tell you, we've got a lot of properties in the pipeline. We have probably 20 hotels in Asia in the pipeline right now, and a few here in Hawaii as well as on the mainland. So growth is a big deal for us. I have created kind of a 5-pronged strategy for the company, and we're in that growth mode now, and we're looking forward to adding some properties to the brand.
So when you're talking about adding 20 properties in Asia, who is your target guest in that case?
There's a couple different brands that we've got internally.
Right.
We've got the Outrigger brand, which we call toes in the sand. Literally there's not a road in between the beach and the property itself. So those are the type of properties we're looking for.
Yeah, I remember hanging out at one of those properties in Hawaii, and it's just so great to go from your room right out onto the beach.
It's the way to do it.
And sometimes, depending on the tide, the water's like right there.
Right. Yeah. But the customer that is really looking for an authentic beach experience, that's who we're looking for. And our properties have done very, very well. As a brand, as a company, we run about 85% occupancy. So we do extremely well. We've got a great customer base, a very loyal customer base, and so we're looking forward to that expansion. We think we've got plenty of opportunities with customers.
That's interesting when you say a loyal customer base, but you're also coming in and making a lot of changes in order to appeal towards a wider set of people. So how do you appeal towards that long-standing customer that likes things the way they are? Hey, I've been here 21 years, as opposed to the newer customer that you're trying to attract. I guess the ultimate question is, how do you balance the needs of your current existing base and the future?
Yeah, I think it's an issue that we all wrestle with when you take a property upstream.
Right.
As you are, if you're taking the average rate of that hotel or resort up by $100, is the same customer going to pay $100 more? And we all kind of wrestle with that. So to some degree, it is a new customer base for some of the properties. But we've got a pretty wide range right now of properties within the company. So we have a wide customer base as well from an average rate perspective.
Huh. So interesting. What are you most excited about right now?
This is this company's been around a long time.
Yeah.
And
1947.
1947. KSL Capital Partners, bought the company 2.5 years ago, and they are excited about the opportunity as well. So this isn't just an investment. This is creating a company that's got significant value for a long period of time. And it's great to have a partner like that to help support you in this type of a growth mode, or when we're modernizing and doing $200 million here and there. It's great to have a partner like that that's helping you along the way.
So $200 million in Waikiki makes me wonder how much is business versus leisure travel in these places? Because I would want to say it's all leisure, but there's a giant convention center there, and there's a lot of stuff happening in Waikiki. It's a place of commerce, too.
Yeah. There's the whole bleisure, that
right.
you hear about
today. And Hawaii
today.
is the perfect place for that.
It is. But,
and for those who don't know yet, it's the blending of business and leisure activities in one contiguous trip.
Sure. So I would say it's probably, 85 to 90% leisure.
Yeah.
It's still pretty heavily leisure. Even, what comes into the convention center, a lot of people will extend their trip to be able to have a leisure side of that. So it's still pretty leisure-driven, which is great. Everybody's there to have a good time and enjoy Waikiki or one of our resorts out in the Asian islands. So it's heavy leisure, a little bit of business.
Right. All right. So I got a question that it doesn't have to do with hotels, but it's been vexing me all these years. Right? Why is everything so crazy expensive there when everything comes on a boat anyway to LA or the East Coast or whatever? It seems to me if you're getting stuff from China or Vietnam or whatever, it's a heck of a lot closer. Why is it so much over there?
Transporting, all the goods in, it does take a while, and there's expense to it. So things do cost a little bit more in Hawaii, but, it's worth it. It's just such an amazing place to live and work and to vacation. It's worth every penny.
How'd you get in the hotel business?
My mom worked for Marriott in the corporate offices way back in the day, and it got in my blood early. And they're a fabulous company, and enjoyed working for them. So I worked for Marriott and then started. I worked for Wyndham for probably 20 plus years of my career, and as you mentioned earlier, with the Trump family, and loved working with them as well. And now I've got this incredible opportunity in Hawaii, and looking forward to great things at Outrigger.
So. What was your career arc like? How did you manage to get from, hey, I want to be in the hospitality business to running major companies?
Yeah, I was an operations guy growing up in the business. Worked in front office, housekeeping, food and beverage. I even became a director of sales for a period of time. So, I spent a good part of my early career working in hotels, worked in 14 different hotels in about every position you can imagine. Ended up with Wyndham in the corporate office in Dallas when Wyndham was in Dallas, and that's what launched my corporate career there. I was in operations as a senior vice president of operations for Wyndham.
Geez, I don't even remember when they were based in Dallas.
Yeah, they were in the Infomart in Dallas for many years. Yeah,
I just remember Parsippany. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's okay. All of that makes sense to me.
Yeah, the whole Wyndham piece, I really saw different iterations of that company. I think when I started with Wyndham, they had 10 hotels. When I left Wyndham, they had 7,500. Yeah. So very different companies, but an exciting and great company as well.
What advice would you give kids coming up to that that want to be successful in this business?
Yeah, I get the opportunity to talk to people all the time about that, and I just say do every job you can within a hotel. The more experience you have, the more knowledge you have on how a hotel actually operates, the more successful you're going to be.
Yeah, how do you get motivated every single day? Because it could be tough, man. I mean, I find it really difficult to sometimes. You got to dig down deep in order to keep moving forward.
Not here. I got to tell you, I've never met a day I didn't like.
That's amazing.
I really, I love getting up in the morning and going to work, and this is such an exciting business. To spend the time with people in the hospitality business, every day is a good day, and there hasn't been a day I didn't like.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, any final thoughts before we wrap this?
No, I hate that it took us 8 months to get together. I'm glad we finally did it, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. But it's an exciting time for us, Glenn, and I want you to come out and see us, and we'll show you our property.
Yeah, it would be that would be really awesome. I got to get back out to that part of the world. It is so freaking amazing. I took my honeymoon to Hawaii, and I had a great time out there. It was 2002. I originally wanted to go somewhere, super far away and fancy, but I was planning the honeymoon right after 9/11, right? So I was a little anxious about doing it. So I'm like, nah, damn it, I'm going to do the cliche thing and go to Hawaii. And it was the first time I'd ever been, and it is the most magical, incredible place I've been fortunate enough to visit.
It is. Come on back. Spend some time with us.
And for those of you who don't know, it's also the most remote landmass that people are living on in the entire world, if you can believe that, which is absolutely incredible. I like that idea because maybe I could just be left alone for a little bit. Jeff, before we wrap up, I'd love to give everyone here a good shameless plug. Tell us anything else you want to know about Outrigger. Feel free to do anything.
Yeah, I really I don't like the shameless plug thing. I just think it's a great company. I've loved being with the team there. They're doing a fabulous job. We're in growth mode, as I indicated, so that's going to be a fun part of our business as we move forward. So it's an exciting time for the company, and we're looking for some good folks to join us as well. We're looking for a head of development and someone on a senior sales side and a few other really important roles to be able to launch us into the future.
Good. Now, that was a good plug because there's a lot of people listening that might want a good gig, and would they be based out there in Honolulu as
Absolutely.
Well? All right. How do you plug that?
There's nothing wrong with that.
All right. I will be back next week with another great show unless I do take that job.
Go on out.
Myself to Hawaii. I want to thank Jeff Wagoner, President and CEO of Outrigger Hospitality Group, for being here. Thanks, man.
Great. Thanks, man.
This is great. All right, see you guys next week. And if if you love this show, make sure you subscribe. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, everywhere your fine podcasts are found, and the crappy ones too. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.